Where Winds Meet 2.0 is finally here, and it is jam-packed with so much content that you can do. It just blew my mind away, and huge thanks to Where Winds Meet for sponsoring this video, because I have a lot to share with you. Hidden Mountain is full of so much content. I mean, it's visually beautiful. It has a multi-layer map. This is the first vertical map, so there are so many different areas to explore. There are also a ton of mechanical themed elements to the game, like the bosses. So much fun to fight, and one of the key highlights that stood out to me was the Gauntlet weapon. Oh my gosh, you feel like you have so much power using this weapon. It honestly blew me away. There's just so much to get into here. You can play right now by clicking on the link and use the redemption code listed here on the screen, which will also be in the description and the pinned comment. Overall, I had a blast, so let me tell you more about Where Winds Meet 2.0. So before I actually made it over to the Hidden Mountain, I had to do a couple of quest lines before I went to the area, and the Hidden Mountain already was a pretty difficult area to get to because it's so well hidden amongst the fog. And then I had to do an entire puzzle sequence in order to get to the top, and then I had to construct a mechanical bird. But eventually I did make it there, and I was completely mind blown when I arrived, seeing the multi layers of the map. It's not just one flat ground, it's actually levels to the area. So when I walked into the big city of the Hidden Mountain, I was absolutely mesmerized. I mean, there was different layers. There was a top layer, there was a middle layer, there was a bottom layer, just different areas, as well as the underwater exploration that I came across. And I'm going to dive a little bit more into that. Just seeing how they went from a largely flat world to a vertically designed map was already a big major thing that really stood out to me. Now, one thing I did enjoy was, as I was exploring the map through Mohist City, I always found myself bumping into a side quest or listening on to a conversation from other NPCs that would lead into details of a different side quest or another activity within the game. So there was always something happening no matter where I went. So definitely you will not run out of things to do, and there's just so much content. I think I barely even touched the surface of how much content there is to do in Mohist Hill and within the entire Hidden Mountain area. Exploration is something that I think everyone's going to have a ton of fun with in Where Winds Meet 2.0 because of just the amount of depth that is there. Like, you'll find yourself traveling on one layer, and then the next moment you'll be at a higher elevation point going into a cave, and then somehow the end of that cave leads into another lower layer, and everything just starts to connect, and the map feels big. And there is a really cool elevator too that you can take that takes you up and down to the different layers, but definitely fast travel is nice. But if you want a good scenic view, you can take the elevator. When you look at the entire area of the Hidden Mountain, at first you might be like, wow, it looks small, but because of the way it's vertically designed, it just feels a lot larger than even the size of the map because of the multi-layer. So going into different areas and seeing a bunch of different enemies at different heights, going into different caves, exploring the rivers, the waters, the fields, that felt really well polished. So I really do appreciate that part of 2.0. Let me know in the comments below, which part of Where Winds Meet 2.0 do you really enjoy so far? I want to know. I'm curious. Now, while exploring and trying out different quest lines, I actually came across this area where I would enter this little bell-shaped object, and it would go all the way down underwater, and it led me into this entire physics-based style puzzle where I had to turn things certain ways, like clockwise or counterclockwise, solve a piece of the puzzle, and continue to move on. And it was really interesting of how to do it. You had to pay attention to the direction you were going and exactly what you were doing in order to solve these puzzles, which adds a completely different layer to what was previously in Where Winds Meet. So pretty big jumping from the text-based puzzles to the physics-based puzzles. Now, one thing I really do appreciate about the new puzzles is that they are somewhat difficult. I actually came across this specific area while exploring where it had these eagle statues, and I didn't know which direction to face the eagle, and there were a bunch of chains that you would attach to the objects there, and if you attach a certain amount of chains, the object would like start to rotate and shift. And I was not actually able to figure that out because it required a lot of thinking. They've added complicated physics-based puzzles to the game, which makes me really want to solve it and go back to that. Due to the amount of time I was playing, I did have to walk away and explore more, but seeing difficult puzzles is always a great sign for me, especially when I'm playing a game. It kind of reminds me of those difficult Zelda-style puzzles. I like that they added that in there. So a lot of physics-based puzzles. Where Winds Meet has a lot of different weapons in the game. However, one new one, specifically in 2.0, that is a ton of fun is going to have to be the Gauntlet. The Gauntlets give you that real raw power feel, and you just feel up close when you are fighting the enemy. Having those fists, oh, it just unleashes so much. You feel so good. It does the job. I mean, just take a look at this gameplay of just knocking out enemies and fighting. Phenomenal weapon. I think having that raw power completely changes up the typical approach of going from cold steel weapons into just raw power fist. Just changes up completely the feel of the game. And I definitely think it's going to be a lot of fun to combo it with other arts. Another really fun martial arts weapon that I played a lot with in Where Winds Meet 2.0 was the rope dart weapon. The rope dart weapon was a ton of fun, a lot of combos, and you just see a lot of rope flying around when you are using the different combinations. You can see this on this boss over here and on these enemies. And I think one of the beautiful things about this fast-paced weapon is having the ability to combine this specific one with the Gauntlet, so you just get non-stop fast-paced combos left and right. And I just love how clean the swapping is from the gauntlets to the rope dart, back and forth. You're just doing a ton of damage. It's explosive, it's close quarters, and it's very flashy. One of the main highlights of the entire Hidden Mountain area, as well as the Mohist Hill city, is going to have to be the fact that there is a lot of mechanical focus when it comes to certain enemies, bosses, and NPCs that you come across just walking around the area. Specifically, I do want to touch up on the boss fights because, wow, these boss fights completely blew my mind while playing this game and have so much depth to them. Now, one of the bosses I came across was a character named sxmwnahyxy, and he basically first started off this fight by throwing out a bunch of regular puppets at me that I fought through, and then after I defeated those puppets, there was another entire fight after that, which was going to be this thing called the Puppet Sword Maiden. Now, this boss fight had two phases. There was one phase where you had to time deflection actions, which would then destroy and reduce the boss's HP, and then another phase where taking hits reduces max HP, while successful deflection restores it. It had its own little mechanics going on over there. Pretty interesting during that fight. And there was some story to it because sxmwnahyxy was actually a mechanism genius from Mohist Hill. So seeing where he is in the story is kind of interesting. I don't want to really spoil that for you, but it gets into depth why he's down there inside the bottom of a lake. Very interesting stuff. GG's. Another boss fight that I came across was these twin puppets. They're pretty much found in a hidden chamber and they're suspended by threads, and then when you go into the fight, they are coordinating against you, which is really interesting. I noticed one boss fights you with their HP bar, the other one fights you with their HP bar. And when you defeat them, it goes into a phase 2 where both of these bosses merge together, and then you're fighting like one version of it, but it has like 4 blades. It was a lot of fun, and what you really had to pay attention for in the mechanics was looking for those perfect dodge windows. There it is. Bang! Beautiful. Took out the twins and then took out the fusion of them. Holy, that was scary. Another big thing that takes place within Hidden Mountain in Where Winds Meet 2.0 is going to be focusing on these creatures known as mechanical beasts that have very dangerous traits. They have things like scorpions, centipedes, snakes, tons of poisonous creatures pretty much that you're going to have to defeat. There is something known as a poison mutation, which is going to affect your HP when you are battling, which can change the player's face and eye color. So one of these bosses I particularly fought was the Iron Centipede, and this centipede was very, very difficult. I was playing in easy mode, but I still lost. I still lost. I'm usually someone who likes playing in normal or hard difficulty when I want a challenge, but I can tell you, if you're playing already in normal difficulty, you are definitely getting a challenge from these beasts. Now, something that this centipede does is it uses its poison sac sprays. It has poisonous front limb blades, as you can see in this gameplay, and mechanical limb charges, making it really, really difficult. So if you're trying to do a hardcore run, I definitely suggest buying the centipede. Another enemy I came across in the overworld while exploring was a mechanical scorpion. I think the scorpion by far most difficult one I fought. I thought it was worse and harder than the centipede. Scorpion was very difficult, completely wrecked me. The mechanics were like breaking its front or getting around so you could do more damage. A lot of time parrying, dodging, and countering is definitely needed to take down these enemies, and I love how menacing these bosses feel when you fight them. Honestly, with all that you saw, I don't know what you're waiting for. Where Winds Meet 2.0 is finally here. This is literally the biggest update yet. Explore the Hidden Mountain, which is the first ever vertical map. And there's also a ton of secrets that you can find in the new Mohist Hill sect, as well as so much new content to discover. So go ahead and download Where Winds Meet right now. You can check out the link in the description. I had a blast and I'm going to keep playing. And let me know in the comments below, what part of Hidden Mountain did you enjoy?